Smokeless tobacco in his mouth since he was 4. 12-year-old Brian has been using it since he was 8. Each one of these high school students has been putting it in his mouth for years. We asked them to show us how. Just a pinch between the lip and gum. Then they spit and spit and spit. The use of smokeless tobacco among young people is on the rise. Boys all over the country are doing it. Boys are doing it, and girls are doing it. 19-year-old Sean Marcy of Ada, Oklahoma, used smokeless for 7 years, since he was 12. Then he developed a sore on his tongue. It turned out to be malignant cancer. He was dead in just 9 months. What caused the cancer, in your opinion?
I think it's directly related to the use of his tobacco.
Dr. Carl Hook is the nose and throat surgeon who treated Sean Marcy. And there's no question in your mind but that smokeless tobacco, snuff, can cause cancer?
No question at all. There's not a question in the mind of any person that treats head and neck cancer.
And as you'd expect, that's not what the tobacco industry says.
The science as we know it today tells us that smokeless tobacco has never been scientifically established to cause any harm to humans. That includes oral cancer.
Smokeless tobacco, oral snuff, like chewing tobacco, only much more finely ground. Smokeless tobacco has been around for years. Only lately, vast numbers of young people have begun using it. And some say that's because of the kind of people who've been selling it over the years. Let's start with a pop music star.
If I'm not riding to a concert, I'm flying to one. So I really appreciate relaxing. Just me and my Skoal. Skoal's wintergreen flavor's #1 with me.
But mostly the people who've hawked smokeless tobacco on TV are sports heroes like baseball catcher Carlton Fisk.
So try Copenhagen, or for you fellas just starting out, Mild Happy Days. Tobaccos you enjoy without lighting up.
Former Yankee Bobby Mercer.
I like a pinch of Skoal between my cheek and gum, too. That's full tobacco pleasure without lighting up.
So ask a kid who sells smokeless and you'll hear
Walt Garrison, Earl Campbell, kind of guys.
Football players and baseball players. They see these sports stars on TV who say,
Just a pinch between my cheek and gum, and I'm free to swing, run, slide, jump, catch, throw, sweat, win.
So the kids say,
athletes can do it, so why not? If he can do it, I can.
The promotion of some smokeless products has seemed even to imply that it's a safe alternative to smoking. According to his mother, that's what Sean Marcy, the young man who died, thought. Did you try and talk him out of it? Did you ever talk to him about it?
And his reasoning was athletes wouldn't advertise it and there'd be a warning label if it really was dangerous.
Sean was forced to undergo drastic surgery in an attempt to save his life. The doctor removed a good part of his tongue, and he wanted to go further. But Sean refused because of the possibility of being disfigured.
He was a fine-looking young man, and single, and probably had a girlfriend, and certainly not wanting to have an operation to change the shape and size of his face and neck. He refused anything more than removal of part of the tongue.
But the cancer spread to the neck, and despite the further surgery that Sean finally allowed, he could no longer fight the cancer.
He was very, very much in pain after all of his surgical procedures, and he had to have a permanent tracheostomy tube to breathe, and he had to have a tube through his nose to eat. And of course he lost weight and went from a nice, healthy 150 pounds down to about 85 pounds to 90 pounds before he passed away.
Mrs. Marcy is suing the U.S. Tobacco Company for $37 million. She claims the U.S. Tobacco Company knew its product was dangerous and should have placed a warning on the package. Nick Bonacani, a former middle linebacker for the Miami Dolphins, is now executive vice president for U.S. Tobacco. He says there is no need for a warning because smokeless tobacco has never been proven to be dangerous.
I think if anybody knows what causes oral cancer, then they ought to stand up and say what causes oral cancer, because they would save a lot of people a lot of agony and suffering. But I don't see anybody stepping up and say smokeless tobacco causes oral cancer. No one has come forth and said that.
Here, in fact, are what some health authorities are saying. The U.S. government's National Cancer Institute. The use of smokeless tobacco is a dangerous practice that may increase a person's risk of cancers of the mouth, pharynx, and esophagus. That smokeless tobacco contains cancer-causing nitrosamines. Dr. William Legensky is Director of Chemical Cancer Research under the auspices of the National Cancer Institute. There is a risk.
I'm sure there is, because smokeless tobacco contains nitrosamines, and we know nitrosamines are potent carcinogens.
No doubt about that?
No doubt about it. That's what this whole business of chemical carcinogenesis studies is about.
In addition to the National Cancer Institute, the World Health Organization says that smokeless tobacco can cause cancer. Study after study names smokeless tobacco as the culprit in oral cancer and a host of other mouth diseases. And even the Surgeon General of the United States says smokeless tobacco does indeed pose a cancer threat and is associated with other pathologic oral conditions. But that doesn't faze Nick Bonacani. But you don't accept that? Are you saying then that there is no risk?
I'm saying there are no products that are sold today that do not contain an element of risk, and smokeless tobacco is included in those products.
Is there anyone telling you that your product does not contain an element of risk?
There's a risk of it. There's a risk in every single product that is sold today and consumed today, and smokeless tobacco is one of those products.
You have said to me that there is an element of risk in the use of your product, just as there is an element of risk in most products. All right?
Because no product is perfectly safe.
Fine.
No product is perfectly safe. And I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a scientist, and I don't know what the risk is.
But there is a risk there, you just don't know what it is.
There is a risk in every single product that is sold or consumed in the United States and probably the world.
And what is the element of risk in your product?
The element of risk as we know it today is that our scientists tell us that smokeless tobacco has not been scientifically established to cause any harm to humans. Any harm to humans, including oral cancer.
We went to Oklahoma, where Sean Marcy died, and we had no trouble finding some junior high school students using snuff. And almost every one of them told us that the smokeless tobacco he used caused problems in his mouth.
And my gums have started to turn white and feel like they've got like bubbles on them, around them, and my lip is real wrinkly and real.
And that's where you put the snuff?
Yeah, right here. Your mouth gets sort of numb and you can't really feel anything right in that area. You can tell when it's getting bad. The skin will start coming out, or it just starts peeling apart or something.
At the baseball school in Delray Beach, Florida, some of these aspiring baseball players have also picked up on the smokeless habit. Why do they do it?
I don't know, because it sort of does give you a buzz, somewhat of a buzz.
But we still heard the same stories about mouth problems.
It sort of stings a couple times when you put it in. It eats away your gums. I can feel that. And my gums have deteriorated a little bit.
It just gets real sore and turns white. Burns. You can't keep it in there for very long. It'll start burning it.
It's because of problems like these that some states want to order that warning labels be placed on all cans of smokeless tobacco. Greg Connolly of the Massachusetts Department of Public Health is not impressed with the tobacco industry's belief that its product is harmless.
The scientific evidence, the animal studies show animals exposed to snuff will develop tumors in their bodies. Scientific evidence shows in North Carolina that large groups of females who are using snuff for an extended period of time will develop 50 times the number of oral cancers than non-users. The scientific studies show that 500 cases have been reported in the country in 10 well-done studies. The evidence is there. What they want to believe is up to them, but in Massachusetts, we have to act on the facts. And the facts are that use of the product will cause a number of health problems.
So what do the athletes who promote smokeless tobacco know about the possible hazards with smokeless tobacco? Former New York Yankee Bobby Mercer. Have you ever been aware that there were health problems potentially with the stuff?
Not really.
No one ever said anything to you at all?
Not that I can remember.
Former Dallas Cowboy Walt Garrison. Walt, what do you hear on the downside about smokeless tobacco?
The biggest negative I hear is you have to expectorate when you dip snuff.
There is no one saying that it does cause a problem.
The Surgeon General says it does. The American Health Foundation says it does.
There is no one out there who can say that smokeless tobacco has been scientifically established to cause any harm to humans. Including oral cancer.
Right. They haven't got their facts right. One just has to look at the studies done in the United States alone that show over 500 deaths from use of snuff and oral cancer that develop from it to realize that we've got a serious public health problem here.
Bonacani relies on other scientists, and apparently not the Surgeon General, the National Cancer Institute, the World Health Organization, the American Health Foundation, and on and on and on.
I'm saying that the scientists who are funded through the Smokeless Tobacco Research Council say that it has not been scientifically established to cause any harm to humans, including oral cancer. But that's why this is a scientific controversy.
In the meantime, there are no warnings on smokeless tobacco products, but the Public Citizen Health Research Group, a watchdog organization, has petitioned the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, to order warning labels on all products. In response, the tobacco industry has cited animal studies which show no connection between the use of snuff and oral cancer. But the only human study they cited in the FTC response was one done by a Dr. James F. Smith of Horseshoe Bend, Arkansas. The Smith study, done about 15 years ago, followed 15,000 snuff users and came to the conclusion that snuff did not cause cancer. Dr. Smith agreed to be interviewed on the telephone, and he stands by his study. But he also acknowledges that he is not aware of many of the more recent findings about smokeless tobacco.
I just don't think that I am any longer an authority on the subject of snuff. I'm speaking of one who has not, admittedly, has not kept up with the literature.
And Dr. Smith concluded,
if you're not using smokeless tobacco, don't start. If you are using it, stop if you can.
In the meantime, its use is on the increase. Snuff is being marketed on college campuses. Sexually oriented ads are trying to lure the young male. And Bobby Mercer even recorded a song, Skull Dippin' Man.
And I keep my little tin of wintergreen handy in the pocket of my new designer jeans. I'm a soul dipping, skull dipping man. I'm a soul dipping, skull dipping man. I'm a soul dipping, skull dipping man. I am a skull dipping man.
As we said, since we broadcast that report, a lot has happened. President Reagan signed a law requiring that warning labels be placed on all smokeless tobacco products, labels that say that the product may cause mouth cancer, gum disease, and tooth loss, and that it is not a safe alternative to cigarettes. And starting in August, it will be illegal to advertise smokeless tobacco products on TV or radio.